Okay, so honestly, I don't know if I want to do this video with spoilers or without. I think we'll just see what happens. I'll just start talking about it, and if spoilers come up, I'll let you know. Stranger Things 4, Volume 1. So yeah, the fourth season of Stranger Things, which came out a few years after the last season, and I guess it's gonna be split into 2 volumes, with the first 7 episodes releasing about a week ago, and the last 2 coming out on July 1st. So at the start of Stranger Things 4, life is quite different for our characters. The kids are separated, Elle and Will live in California, Eleven doesn't have her powers. They're starting off high school now, and it's funny, the first episode of this season, I actually was really disappointed by it, cause it's all the high school setup. Like Lucas, for example, he wants to fit in with the cool kids, he's on the basketball team, and his friends are feeling alienated because of that, and I was sitting there watching it like, I don't care, get to the cool stuff. And that's pretty much how I felt throughout this entire first episode. Like, everything that was happening, I didn't really care about it. Because it had nothing to do with the cool, other dimensions and monsters and weird stuff that Stranger Things is known for. And then at the very end of the first episode, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Now we're kicking into high gear. There's this new entity from the Upside Down that the kids call Vecna, and it's murdering teenagers in the most gruesome way ever. It's actually really cool. You'll see these victims like float up into the air, and all of a sudden their bones start going, and their eyes start getting gouged out. You're like, ugh, it's so gruesome. And then from there, the show got really good. It's funny, like the first episode, I was like, this is bullshit. 2 episodes later, I was like, this is awesome. Which I actually always appreciate that. When something starts off and you're like, oh, this is stupid, and then it gets good. I feel like the filmmakers or the screenwriters or whoever, they must have known that, yeah, people are not gonna like this first episode because it is that high school stuff. But we're gonna throw them for a rope-a-dope, kind of like the beginning of Cloverfield. Or even Heathers, like the beginning is really campy, but then shit gets real when people start dying. And yeah, that is what happens here. And the cool thing about Vecna is the way in which he kills people. Because it's not like he comes into our world like physically and just makes people float and then bends their bones and kills them. No, what he'll do is he'll give his victim like a vision of sorts. I wouldn't call this a spoiler. He'll like make them see things that aren't really there, which totally reminded me of Pennywise from It. Because it's like, oh, these kids are seeing things that other people don't see. How cool is that? And at first, all the victims seem like random people, but there is something that does connect them together. I'm not gonna spoil what it is right here. But you're solving the mystery. There's actually a really cool mystery element in this season. Because they're looking for clues, they're figuring out like what connects all these victims together, why Vecna is going after them in particular. Almost starting to sound like a serial killer case or something. And it was really cool because I kept up with it, but I was never smarter than it. I was never like, oh, I know the answer. The suspense is gone. Nah, the suspense was always there because I didn't know what was going on. And even when I thought I did, the show was like, all right, you know that, but you don't know all the answers yet. Keep watching. And I did keep watching because the characters are really good, as usual. And in classic Stranger Things fashion, there are, separate story arcs going on at the same time. Some characters are over here, some are in Russia. And yeah, some of these story arcs are less relevant than others. Like example, we have Elle and Will, they live in California. Mike goes to visit them. And at first it's like, alright, Elle is getting bullied by these douchebags. Oh my god, that girl Angela, she was a bitch. And I don't care what anyone says. When Elle finally got her justice and just smacked her in the head with that roller skate, I was like, yeah! I felt nothing. I felt no sympathy. Bitch had it coming. Give that scene to me 100 times over. Cause that is what bullies deserve. But at first, her arc did seem kind of irrelevant. And eventually, alright, this is kind of a spoiler, since I don't think this was shown in the trailers. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna spoil what happens at the end. But I guess I will talk about things that happen up until the last episode, and then I'll just cut it off and say no spoilers here. So you've been warned, I guess. Anyway, Eleven eventually ends up back with Matthew Modine, that scientist who was doing experiments on her and shit. And eventually that does become relevant, really relevant, so that was cool. But when it comes to irrelevance, I gotta say, the most irrelevant story arc in this entire season is Joyce and Murray. Because they find out that Jim Hopper is in fact alive after being supposedly blown up at the end of season 3. So he's being held in a Russian prison, and so Joyce and Murray work up a rescue plan to go save him. And it's not that the story arc itself is bad. I do like those characters, and so I was entertained by their scenes. But it's just the fact that it has nothing to do with anything else that's going on with any of the other characters in the show. It has nothing to do with Vecna. It has nothing to do with Eleven trying to get her powers back. It has nothing to do with anything. Now, I imagine later on he will probably be rescued and brought back to America to help with the whole Vecna thing, so that's fine, I guess, but for now it just seems completely unrelated to everything else. There's also this new character, Eddie Munson. He's a bit older than the kids since he was held back in school a couple times, but he gets falsely blamed for one of the murders, and so some people are chasing after him, including these bullies. Okay, wait. These guys. These guys are probably my least favorite characters in Stranger Things ever. I just don't like them. I don't know if it's the main guy's like snarky attitude or his weird hair, but every time he was on screen, I was like, I don't care about you, dude. I want Vecna to like break your bones and gouge out your eyes, cause you're stupid and you need to die. I honestly don't know what it is. It might just be one of those things. You know that thing that happens where you just look at someone and for no reason you're like, I don't like them. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what happened with me and this dude. I don't know. But as per usual, the best story arc in this season involves Dustin, Steve, Nancy, Lucas, Max, Robin, because once again, Steve is still my favorite character in the show because he's still the funniest. His chemistry with Dustin in particular, it just has me laughing out loud. But really, this story arc is the meat of the story. It's the main thing that's involving, Vecna. They're finding out more about him. They're pretty much the mystery gang from Scooby-Doo. In fact, there were a few times during the season where I was like, this is straight up Scooby-Doo shit. I mean, you got your haunted house that has bats flying around it. I was like, this is the intro of Scooby-Doo, where are you? I just wanted someone to be like, Zoinks, like Scoob, like we gotta solve the mystery of Vecna's curse. I mean, I'm not complaining. It actually was really cool because this was pretty much a rated R version of Scooby-Doo. It sounds ridiculous when I say it, but that is what it is. Is anyone gonna argue with that? And this is rated R without a doubt. I actually really like how the seasons have gotten more violent as they went along. Like season 1, I'd say it's pretty PG-13. And then season 2 was a little more violent. Season 3 was the first one where I was like, alright, that had some pretty rated R stuff. And so now in season 4, they're going full rated R. Cause it does get really gruesome. And there's blood everywhere. It's awesome. And then you have the story arc with Mike and Will and Jonathan and their new friend Argyle, who's just high all the time. Their story arc, I wouldn't call it completely irrelevant, although it kind of is. I mean, after Elle gets taken away, they now have to deal with these police officers and these military people. And I get it, they're trying to find Eleven, so it doesn't feel as irrelevant as Joyce and Murray, but it's still not as relevant as Steve and Dustin and all of them. I will say though that Max in particular has a really good story arc this season. After the events of season 3 and its finale with the death of her asshole stepbrother, she's really going through some shit. And you do feel for her, yeah. She's closing herself off from everyone, she's really distant, and where that goes is probably one of the highlights of this season so far for me. And speaking of highlights, alright, again, I'm not gonna spoil the end, but the last episode ends with such a bomb drop. You get this huge revelation just dropped on your lap. I swear to God, I can't remember the last time my mind was so blown by a bomb drop like this. Seriously, like the last 20 minutes of the last episode, it really left me going, holy. It was fantastic, because I didn't see it coming throughout the entire season, and I know there were hints. Like, looking back, I was like, oh yeah, that was a hint, and it just went right over my head. How great. I really gotta give all sorts of props to the writers on that, because it was so well pulled off. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you want to know, well, I guess you'll just have to watch the show, because this is where I'm gonna end this video. Guys, in the end, Stranger Things 4 Volume 1 anyway, was really good. I know Season 3 got a lot of mixed reactions. It was probably the least well-received of all the seasons so far. So I imagine there was some fear going into this new season. But this season picked it right up, put the series right back on track. The writing is fantastic. You love most of the characters. The ones you hate, you're supposed to hate them, so that works out too. It's violent as hell. Some of the story arcs do seem less relevant than others, but I imagine they will all come together in the end in typical Stranger Things fashion. Another complaint I've heard is the runtime of the episodes, and yeah, they are pretty long and they do feel long. They average like an hour and 20 minutes per episode or something like that, with the last one being an hour and 40 minutes. And that would be a complaint of mine if it didn't justify the runtime with its content, but it absolutely does. I never had a problem with the runtimes, because I was pretty invested in what was going on. If you can just make it past the first episode, trust me, it does get better from there. So if you were losing your faith in Stranger Things because of the third season, watch this season, you'll probably like it again. Or at least that's my opinion. And I can't wait to see how this season concludes in about a month from now. So, Stranger Things 4 Volume 1, have you watched it yet? What are your thoughts on it? What are your theories? How shocked were you by that ending? Just what do you want to say about it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am actually currently on a cruise ship. Yeah, I actually shot this video a few days ago because I'm about to be out of town for a week, so I gotta fill in the gaps somehow, so here you go. I'll be back on Wednesday. Peace!